Speaking of retirements, Keylor Navas had announced his retirement from the Costa Rica national team back in 2024 and said, wait, never mind, and made his return for Los Ticos in this 2-0 loss to Catalunya. I mean, the goals came after Navas was subbed off at the half, where Ticos coach Miguel Herrera made 10 subs, just trying to see a little bit of everything. I mean, with so many things to say about Keylor Navas, we have to ask our resident goalkeeper, does Navas make Costa Rica better?
Well, I'll be honest. I'm not in a position to say yes or no. I don't know Costa Rica's goalkeeping position. I will say, though, Keylor Navas, sitting at his best, and Herc knows how I felt about Keylor Navas, one of the best goalkeepers in the world, at his best, playing for Real Madrid. Quite clearly, kind of given his age, he's not that goalkeeper once again. But you maybe have to question the goalkeeper players pool for Costa Rica at this point. If Keylor Navas is still the best that Costa Rica has, then you ask those questions. And listen, I feel like I'm perfectly positioned to make that call, given the number of times I retired from Trinidad and Tobago and came back until finally hanging my gloves up after the 2006 World Cup. And maybe that's where Keylor Navas is right now. Understands that he's not quite done yet. There's a World Cup in 12 months' time, and maybe uses that as his swan song. But again, it all depends on the depth chart for Costa Rican goalkeeping.
Shaq knows how I feel about Keylor Navas. I'm a massive fan of him as a player. I feel he's easily the most disrespected player of his generation.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yes.
Disrespected by Real Madrid.
PSG, Real Madrid, he was, for his size, for where he comes from, the passport, he's easily the most disrespected player of his generation. But he's 38 years old. And this is typical Keylor Navas. Keylor Navas wants nothing to do with the Costa Rican national team until the World Cup comes about. He's played in Gold Cups, 2009 and 2011. That's it. Keylor Navas says, no, eso no. Don't come with me with that. No. I'll go to the World Cup. Here we are at a World Cup. You talk about that goalkeeper pool, Patrick Sequeira. He plays in Portugal. He's 26 years old. I think he's been doing admirably for Costa Rica. Miguel Herrera certainly feels this club needs a bit of leadership, a bit of a bite, if you will. I don't go as far as Miguel Herrera, the coach of the Costa Rican national team, the ex-Mexican national team manager, in saying that Keylor Navas is still a top 5 goalkeeper in the world. He's at Newell's for a reason.
Yeah.
It's a mid-table club in Argentina. He's 38 years of age. But not too long ago, before it was Chesney, break in case of emergency, going to Barcelona because Andre Ter Stegen was injured.
Straight off the couch.
They made a phone call to Keylor.
Yeah.
Barcelona made a phone call to Keylor Navas. So he's still a serviceable player on a national team, and Shaq knows what these games are about. Shaq, a player like Keylor Navas with that hierarchy, with that resume, in tournament setting, if a Patrick Sequeira goes down or whatever the case may be, there's no better player to go in a big moment to than a Keylor Navas. So does he make them better? In a sense, yes. In a sense. They just had a game against Catalunya. Catalunya is not a country, okay? They had a game against the Catalonian national team. They lost 2-0. It was 0-0 until Miguel Herrera made practically 10 subs. All the field players came out, and then 10 minutes later, Keylor Navas came out. Then the goals came. It was 2-0, okay? They're a good enough team to compete. Do I think the goalkeeper position, if it's Keylor Navas, makes a massive difference? No, I don't. Does he make them better? Yes. In the overall sense of the word, yes.
I will say, if I may, I'm sure not everybody quite like me watched Keylor Navas training videos sitting at his prime. If his training regimen now is anything like, albeit given the added years, but if he continued to keep himself in shape with the training regimen that he used during his peak years, even at 38, I think he's a solid addition for the Costa Rican national team.
Yeah, he's looking to be, at least Rayados is trying to make him also a solid addition for them because at the goalkeeping position, they need a little bit of help. And
The Club World Cup.
for the
Sergio Ramos combination right there, the connection.
Yeah, and listen, you know what Esteban Andrada was
gone.
this past season. It's definitely a position that was heavily criticized because of very basic mistakes that were made during the season. What do you think of this possibility now?
I go back to the 10-day window that we keep talking about when we speak about Inter Miami. This goes for any team in this competition. They're trying to make it a star-studded event. You get 6 reinforcements. Of those 6, 2 players can be only for that tournament. So if you're Newell's, if you're Keylor Navas, this could be a tournament-only type of thing. Like back in the day, Libertadores used to allow these type of things. So you would see, Pepe Cardoso, who's a Toluca legend, go reinforce Cruz Azul, and he's playing in the final against Boca Juniors. That type of thing, okay? It makes sense for a team like Monterrey, who has a kinship for veteran goalkeepers, Trapito before them, and now Andrada, Keylor, they're goalkeepers that come from Argentina. Well, Keylor's not Argentine, but he's coming from Argentina. It would make sense. They have a player pool that's heavily European. Sergio Ramos, Ocampos, Sergio Canales. There's a bunch of those players. I think this makes sense on paper. If I were Keylor Navas, I would do it because I don't see another team come knocking on your door for the Club World Cup. And Rayados is a big team in Mexico, and you already have some familiar faces there. This is a good fit. I go back to it. It's not a transfer full time. You're allowed a tournament transfer. I think it's a good piece of business for everybody involved here.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, this is where I think Monterrey, if they're looking to break the emergency glass, as you mentioned, with the Chesney situation, this is definitely the position where it needs to be. It needs to be.
And if you convince him to a full transfer, maybe a year, a 1+1, I don't know. I know, and Shaq's, entitled to we'll see what players make of this, but I think this is a unique point in time where this tournament, we don't know what to make of it, and we don't know the way they're going to react. So if you're enticed and there are a bunch of stars at this tournament, it could be an attractive setting for any player.
Yeah, it definitely could. So we'll just have to see what Keylor Navas does for the summer if he wants to hang out with his friend Sergio Ramos.